Hi, everyone. We're going to be recording this meeting. If there's any issues with that, you can let Rosie know and we'll handle it somehow by not recording. But preference is to record. So we have this to look back on. We post the recordings to our website, our committee website, which you have access to, and we will send that link as well. But we are going to go ahead and get started really quickly. Rosie, can you pull up the first slide? Okay, great. So I just quickly want to welcome everyone and thank you for being a part of this committee and giving an hour and a half of your time this afternoon and the rest of the year. So we started this committee last year. So this is our first meeting of this second year. And we really wanted to kind of bridge the gap of public outreach that we have going out to meeting or going out doing public outreach and then never kind of following up and doing that. So we created this committee so that we'd have a shared space to continue that coordination and communication and create kind of a two-way street where there's back and forth. So we have a lot of members that have stuck with us from last year, but we have a couple new members. So we're going to start with introductions. So we'll do welcome and introductions. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to have everyone state their name, description of the organization you serve or are associated with, and one thing that drew you to serve on the Wasatch Choice Community Advisory Committee. And so we can, maybe we'll leave that on for now. No, we'll take that off so that we can see everyone online. That's okay. Thanks, Rosie. But I can go ahead and get started. I'm Lauren Victor. I'm a transportation planner for the Wasatch Front Regional Council, and I do long-range transit planning. So anything transit related, I'm on it and involved with. And then I guess one thing that drew me to start this is that we have required public outreach, but I felt that wasn't, there could be more. And so that's what we're trying to do with this. And so I wanted to create this community advisory committee to kind of create that back and forth and that platform to better help our planning processes.
Jory Johnner, Wasatch Front Regional Council, Long Range Plan Planner, Long Range Plan Group Director. Been here for a while and have seen our outreach efforts, as Lauren's been talking about, grow, and really excited about the Community Advisory Committee.
Braden Pease, Salt Lake City. I kind of just been on my own for transportation, and I like doing that. I first saw this Wasatch Front Regional Council online, mostly on Twitter and all over the place, and I saw that they were doing a regional council, and this is my first year. So, and I'm just signed up this year. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm Seamus Gueda. I am with Wasatch Front Regional Council, and I am a transportation planner on the Long Range Planning Group as well. I am new. This is my third week being here, and I heard there was a chance to work with the community and get more involved. So I wanted to leap at that and talk to Lauren, and yeah, so now I'm here and I'm excited. This will be my first year as well.
Michaela, do you want to start at that table?
Thank you, Megan. Hi, everyone. I'm Michaela Jordan, and I'm a community planner with the Wasatch Front Regional Council. So I help different cities, towns, metro townships, counties in our area with their local planning efforts. And I was just, really excited to be able to be part of this group because I think public engagement is probably one of the most important parts of planning. And so making sure that we're hearing from all sorts of different voices is really important.
Hi, I'm Megan Townsend. I'm also with the Wasatch Front Regional Council. I'm our Community and Economic Development Director. And I haven't actually been able to attend these meetings historically, so I'm excited to hear more about what you all are accomplishing.
Hi, Jeremy Shinoda, Ogden. I'm a community member and a member of the Ogden Planning Commission. And I just wanted to make sure Ogden was included in the conversation. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Sarah Cody. Excuse me. And I'm a private citizen, but I also get to work at the University of Utah with the Black population, as well as I formerly got to work with the Midvale Family Resource Center with homeless populations. And so that's something I'm really passionate about, and communities that are underserved, but definitely need transportation and need public transportation. And so just being able to access that was something that I was passionate about and something that drew me here. Now I'm getting to serve the second year here, and it's been something that has been very informative and something that's I've been able to take back to my community. So that's been great.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen Richardson, Ogden as well. And I formerly am a Director of Strategic Initiatives for Weber State University. So of course, that's the Northern Utah region, and at Weber State, we are using an equity lens through our strategic plan amplified. And so that caught my attention, as well as I'm a writer of UTA. And specifically, I started riding public transportation in Austin prior to my moving to Utah. And I didn't know just how amazing it was to use that to, I always joke how seems like the general traffic moves out of the way for public transportation because of the buses. And so, but in Austin, I didn't have the opportunity or the luxury of having a city-wide train circuit or option there. It was just central to downtown. And so I needed to get to the airport. And so here, when I moved, I learned immediately there was a train that take you from the airport and then a front runner to Ogden. Unfortunately, the front runner only runs Monday through Saturday. And so that creates its own challenges. And so that, among other challenges for the Ogden community, I'm here to speak on. Again, that equity lens draws me, and I'm a community member as well. So thank you.
Kendall, do you want to start at that table?
Sure thing. So I'm Kendall Willardson, and I work with the Mountain Land Association of Governments, which is essentially like WFRC, but we do transportation planning for Utah County. And I'm a transportation planner there, doing long range planning. And something that has drawn me to as being a part of this committee is, again, a part of what I do is public engagement also. And I think at MAG, we're definitely wanting to find additional avenues of reaching people more. And this looked like a great opportunity to be part of this committee. So happy to be here.
I'm Mike Sopchak. I'm the communications manager at WFRC. Welcome, everyone. And one thing that, well, a couple of things that draw me to this committee. One, just being able to better communicate and engage with all the communities across our region is a goal of mine. And I strongly believe that regardless of your zip code, you should be well informed of transportation planning happening within your neighborhood, as well as have quality choices to different modes. So I'm excited to be here.
I'm Mike Christensen. I'm the executive director of the Utah Rail Passengers Association, and I also serve on Salt Lake City's Planning Commission. And I actually ditched my car 6.5 years ago, so I am here to bring in perspective about what it's like to actually rely on public transit and walking and biking.
I am Curtis Herring. I am the executive director of the Utah Transit Riders Union. So I am here to kind of be a voice for the transit rider across the state of Utah and bring that to the forefront.
Hi, I'm Alex Boehm. I'm the manager of long range and strategic planning at the Utah Transit Authority. I have been on this group, I think, since the beginning, and it's been a great opportunity to have, we know that there's certain folks who get a very strong voice and microphone when it comes to transportation planning. But the more we can do to expand how we connect with other communities, I think the better we can serve folks across the region. When I moved to Utah 5 years ago, I did not bring a car. So I use the system and ride bikes and walk also. So.
Now we'll jump to Andrew. Do you want to introduce yourself? And then we'll go into the back with our friends at UTA.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Gruber. I'm Executive Director here at Wasatch Front Regional Council. Welcome to WFRC. To those of you who have been participating on this Community Advisory Committee last year, welcome back. To those of you that are newly joining, welcome. We're really happy to have you here. So I apologize, I came in just a little bit late, and I think the question that you posed was what draws us to this committee?
Yep.
And well, to me, we have to think broadly about the whole, have the opportunity to think broadly about the entire region. And I am really committed to making sure that we're thinking about everybody in our region and trying to engage all the communities, all the voices. That doesn't mean that everybody will always get exactly what they want or even necessarily exactly what they need, but there should be an equal consideration and opportunities provided to all of the communities in our region so people can thrive, have the opportunity to thrive. And I believe that by us working together and coming together in groups like this, not only this, but by groups like this, we're going to do a better job working together and serving our whole community and all of the portions of our community in the years to come. So I'm just so appreciative of everybody taking their time to come together for this kind of discussion. We want to help do a good job and serve you and your communities as much as we can.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces online as well. Just a few housekeeping items. Oh, my name is Rosie Hernandez, Executive Assistant with the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
That's not a housekeeping, I am.
Restrooms are right behind Andrea, behind that wall. If you are a committee member and you need a gift card, please see Andrea before you leave. If you need parking validation, please see Andrea before you leave. And there is dinner in the back. Please make sure to grab some dinner. That's it. Good to have you all here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Gray. I'm walking over here so I can be on camera. And I'm a strategic planner at UTA.
Jim Wadley, also a strategic planner at UTA.
Hi, I'm Lila Rosenfield. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an assistant service planner at UTA.
Great, thanks. Okay, so now we will go to our online folks. Let's start with Sandra.
Hello, I'm Sandra, community member in Salt Lake, and I also do a lot with OCA Utah, and I'm a grad student at the U. So super excited to be here. I grew up in Heber and then moved back to Utah when I finished my undergrad. So being a part of this community and seeing all the change and growth that has happened makes me really passionate to see where our community can go in the future.
Thank you. Zuri. Okay, we'll come back to you. Tashelle? Oh,
I'm so
there you
sorry.
are. No, you're good.
I had the menu all the way to the right and wasn't showing my microphone. I was like, where did it go? But I am Zuri Garcia and I live in Davis County, and I had the privilege of being on this committee, on the council last year, and I'm looking forward to another year.
Thanks. Then we'll go to Shell.
Hi, everyone. I am Shachelle Wright. I am a community member in Harriman. I am also with Project Success as a community health worker. And this is my second year with Wasatch. And I'm just really excited to be here and see the new faces and see familiar faces. So hopefully I'll be joining you all next time in person. But today I am sick, like about 30% of those of us in Utah. But have a great night and I'll be here.
Thanks. And let's go to Toya. Okay, we'll come back to you. Let's go to Andrew.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Riggle. I'm the lobbyist for the Disability Law Center, and I am here for a couple reasons. Primarily because a large number of the folks that we hear from and that we work with are low income and are in desperate need of deeply affordable housing, and as well as physically accessible housing, and also much more extensive public transportation. I am also here because when the pandemic hit, I moved home for everybody's health and safety, and I haven't been able to get back out of the boondocks yet because of a lack of affordable housing and a lack of accessible transportation. Because I use a power chair and don't drive. And then I'm also here for a third reason, and that is to make sure that I stay on Andrew's good side, because I need to stay on Andrew's wife's good side as well. So
that's great. Thanks, Andrew.
You're doing a great job so far, Andrew. And I'll just say, Andrew's been a great community advocate, and I've known him for a long time. And we really admire everything you do, Andrew. Thank you.
Okay, and then Jay. Okay, maybe we'll come back to you. Toya, are you here? Okay, well, oh, there you are, Jay. Do you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties with my headpiece. Yeah, my name is Jay Aguilar. I'm the Long Range Planning Manager for UDOT and participated in the last round and really enjoyed it. So look forward to another. Thanks.
Great, thanks.
And Jem and Angela.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, not to put you on the spot right as you get in, but do you mind?
Planning?
Sorry, Angela, would you use the mic? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that.
Folks
Just
online.
getting organized. Angela Papastamas, UDOT Planning.
And then Jem, will you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Jem Lacal, pronouns are they and them. I'm with UTA.
Thanks. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Oops. Okay, so just quickly going over the agenda for today. We've done the welcome and introductions. Next, I'm going to cover the committee objectives. So those were something that we created as a committee together at the inception of this committee. And then I'm going to give an overview of the Wasatch Choice Vision. And then I'm going to hand it off to Alex Bain with UTA to go over and give an introduction to the UTA Moves 2050. And then we're going to break out into groups. We're going to look at maps and mark up those maps for UTA and just have discussions on the planned long-range transit investments. And then we'll just have open discussion announcements very quickly at the end, and then we'll be done. Okay, so the text on this is very small just because of the length of these shared committee objectives, but I will read all of them and then you will also have access to these so you can reference them later. So we broke these up into 3 categories. And so the first one is planning. So we have the transportation partners will inform the advisory committee on Wasatch Choice Vision plans and programs and create a space for learning about transportation and land use efforts. So we'll create a space for learning will be created through our meetings, and then tools and resources will be shared on an ongoing basis. The next one is the advisory committee will advise transportation partners on planning efforts relevant to the needs and lived experiences of diverse communities throughout the Wasatch Front region. So the next category is outreach and engagement. So the transportation partners will regularly share plans, studies, and programs along with supportive materials and resources with the advisory committee to share with the community. The next one is the advisory committee will advise transportation partners on new avenues for outreach and public engagement for the Wasatch Choice Vision and related transportation and land use efforts.
Wait, Lauren, the ones they're not all showing up on the screen.
Sorry.
There we go.
There we are. Okay. And we'll increase awareness and spread the word with members and communities. And then the last category we have is responsibility. So the advisory committee will communicate issues and ideas related to transportation and land use to the transportation partners. The transportation partners will work with the advisory committee to consider issues identified through planning efforts. So there are all of those together. So those are the Wasatch Choice Community Advisory Committee and the transportation agencies will work together on an ongoing basis to advance these shared committee objectives. Any questions or thoughts on that? Anyone online? Sorry, I can't see you when we're sharing the screen, so I want to make sure I don't leave you. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, this will be available to you as well, so you can read them over at a later date. And then so quickly moving on, I'm going to give an overview of the Wasatch Choice Vision. So growth is our constant companion. Utah was the fastest growing state in the nation over the past decade, and that will only continue. Today, we're talking about the Wasatch Choice Vision, which is our community's shared plan for the future. So let's take a look at the new website that we've created. So the Wasatch Choice Vision has been developed collaboratively by many stakeholders and organizations. I won't read all of these, but they're available on our website. So reflecting, but all of this partnership shows that we need to work together if we want to ensure high quality of life in Utah in the future. So there are 4 key strategies for a thriving region and communities. So there's transportation choices. So that provides people with real choices in how they get around by driving, transit, biking, and walking. This reflects what Utahns said they wanted, and it's consistent with what we're planning in the future of Utah's Unified Transportation Plan, which is another product that we will go into at another time. The second one is housing options. So this is supporting the housing types and in locations that meet the needs of all of our residents. The third one is parks and public space. So ensuring ample and convenient parks, public spaces, and open land for gathering and recreating. And the fourth one is city and town centers. So creating and enhancing city and town centers as the hearts of our communities, walkable areas where activity is focused with places to live, work, and play. So 82% of Utah's population, which is 2.8 million people, live on the Wasatch Front and back. So the Wasatch Choice Vision covers that whole region. That's the way people live their lives. It's the way transportation and the economy function. So it's long range. It looks from now all the way out to 2050 for growth and development. And it's holistic and it plans for the interplay between growth and development and infrastructure. So zooming into Northern Davis and Southern Weber counties, can I give you a better sense of the vision and look at the interplay of issues. In the interactive web map, you can navigate around the region, zoom into your area, and click to get more information about project details. So you can also highlight legislative districts. But so quickly turning off all the layers, I'm going to go through and display each layer and kind of what they mean. So starting with plan, transportation infrastructure, and transportation choices. Transportation in the Wasatch Choice Vision is the official, soon to be finalized Utah Unified Transportation Plan. So these are the plans and projects that will be built in the years to come and are based on the development anticipated in the Wasatch Choice Vision. Enhancement of public transit, so more options and more frequency for more people. So even if you don't use transit, everybody benefits because it takes pressure off of key road corridors. So for example, here you can see the Ogden-Weber State Bus Rapid Transit that just opened in Ogden and the enhanced front runner system with strategic double tracking. So now looking at bike and pedestrian trail networks for transportation purposes. For example, the planned 3-gate trail connecting multiple communities with Hill Air Force Base. And then so moving on to land use, we have city and town centers as the heart of our communities, walkable areas where activity is focused with places to live, work, and play as mentioned. For example, here you see the Metropolitan Center of downtown Ogden, the Urban Center in Layton, and city and neighborhood centers in Clearfield, Roy, and others. So these are these areas that cities you have identified in places best suited to absorb growth and mixed use development in communities. And then moving on, so other key land uses such as employment and industrial districts. So for example, we have the Hill Air Force Base and associated Falcon Hill Employment District and the Freeport Center Industrial District. And then we have parks and public spaces woven into the fabric of our communities, which are also critical to our quality of life and health. And the key to absorbing growth effectively is to coordinate and integrate the planning of all of these elements together. So we have roads, trails, transit, and city town centers, parks, and public spaces. And you can see that coordination of land use and transportation in the vision map. So let's zoom back out to the whole region. Because it will take all of us across the region and the state working locally and collaboratively to achieve the overall purpose of the vision. So that is to preserve and even enhance quality of life for generations to come, even as we grow. And so that was all I had on that. Are there any questions on that? That's a very high level overview. There's a lot that goes into that, so I didn't want to overwhelm you. We have a lot of resources that we'll share and will be available to you on that. And this won't be the last time we talk about the vision. Just kind of wanted to set the stage. I did go through that very quickly. So are there any questions or comments?
Just to confirm, did you say that it's on the brink of becoming a formal or something approved as the regional transportation plan?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
To the Utah's Unified Transportation Plan, which is another resource that we can share. But yes. Anything to add, Andrew?
Thank you. Just that in this area that we're talking about here, the plan that you see in the Wasatch Choice Vision has already been approved, officially adopted back in May. So WFRC, UDOT, UTA, and Mountain Land Association of Governments have adopted those plans after an extended process. And the thing that is still yet to come is the last sort of layer of integrating all of them together into what, as Lauren mentioned, is referred to as Utah's Unified Transportation Plan. But to your question, what you see on the map is the official transportation plan. And now we sort of begin the process again. It's a continual process of planning and updating. So even though we just adopted this, it is still something that is continually evolving as we look at needs of the communities.
And one thing to note, when this committee started last year, we were already kind of at the end essentially the end of that planning process, but I'm really excited now to have this committee in place as we get going on our next one to plug you in right away. So we'll have more information on that regional transportation plan forthcoming. Any other questions or comments? Anyone online? Okay. So now we will move to the UTA Moves 2050. Alex?
Hi, everyone. Thanks. So we've been working on a long-range transit plan. It's the first that UTA has had. And I have a short presentation. Actually, it's long, but I'll go through it quickly. Lauren said nobody wants to hear you talk for a long time. So we're going to go through that quickly, and then we will have Matt Gray is online, and he will be talking in a sort of breakout with the folks that are joining remotely. And then we also have maps and boards in the room. So folks who are here can walk around and talk with us and provide comments. And with that, okay, hopefully this one's works well. All right, so as I mentioned, we're developing a long-range transit plan. Why we're doing it, we're looking to be able to plan and understand the future needs of the communities we serve, and we're looking to put out a vision for folks to comment on. This is just an overview of where we are. We've done a pretty extensive amount of outreach, including, which I'll get into in more detail, a needs assessment, developed a draft scenario, and we're doing our outreach on the draft vision right now, and then we'll be fiscally constraining that plan and taking it to our Board of Trustees and local advisory council late this year. As Andrew mentioned in regards to the regional transportation plan, it's not a fixed document. The LRTP is also not a fixed document. So once that's done, we will be working on collecting input for the next round of the document and working with MAG and WFRC and UDOT and all the communities that we serve on how we can make the next version better. So in developing our vision, we have some goals-based criteria, and we've taken stock of existing strategies and plans. So right now, as was pointed out earlier, MAG and WFRC have adopted a 30-year plan, and we are slightly behind that process right now. So a lot of what you'll see in the vision is, as far as big projects, comes from both of those planning efforts. We also have other things that are not large capital projects that will be included in our plan. And then as we sync up for the next cycle of this plan, we'll have kind of a more interactive process with our partners. And then, of course, we're gathering feedback, and then we'll use that to put together a prioritized list. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we'll make this available. It's available online, and we have a board of it. But part of what we're trying to do is help people understand the different levels of service, and based on how many people are there, densities, and where people are going. It's everything from a commuter rail, regional rail service on one end to light rail to different levels of bus service to on the far other end is what we're calling innovative mobility solutions, which can include a number of things, including on-demand service, partnerships with companies like Lyft and Uber, ride vouchers. So you can partner with someone for them to give you a ride someplace and get that reimbursed, a whole range of things. We've got 4 investment strategies, which are about maintaining the system that we have to keep things working, make the system work better. We want to expand our frequent service network, the places where people can access more service more often at a greater, longer times of the day, and increase weekend service, and to serve new growth areas, as has been discussed. Utah is growing quite substantially. Maintaining our system is really about, making sure that the buses, the rail system, everything is working. The bus fleet, what can we do to help that go be green and more sustainable? We have people and facilities and park and rides, transit centers, and technology support that all goes into making the transit system work. We're doing a lot of things to make it work better. Like I mentioned, fast and flexible service is important. Targeted capital investments, which is where we primarily partner very heavily with our MPO partners, MAG and WFRC. And we are looking at technological improvements and how we can help the system improve through that way. As I mentioned, expanding the frequent service network across all modes, including front runner, the light rail system, and bus. And bus, we're also looking at making corridor improvements on our frequent routes to help the buses be faster and more reliable, and also looking at what are the corridors that we should be looking at today for future transit investment. And making service run more often and on the weekends. We know the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday is an old paradigm for transportation, and we're trying to make sure we're adapting to that. We're looking at new routes in select growing areas, as I mentioned, innovative mobility solution zones, and a new service type for extended parts of our region, including like a bi-directional all-day service that can increase regional connectivity. I'm not going to really go through these, but we can talk through them in the breakout groups. And this is just a breakup of different sections of our region, and points out that we have service improvements planned in each one of those, from Box Elder, Davis, and Weber County to Salt Lake and Tooele County. And then also in Utah County, a number of additional improvements planned as well. We are planning investment in line with UTA's strategic plan goals, which are listed up at top here, but are guiding a lot of our decision-making, including improved access, ridership, improving air quality, and a number of other things to help support our communities into the future. There's some additional planning processes that are concurrent with this effort right now. So we're not focusing heavily on those because there's other work happening at the same time that we don't want to contradict or go one direction when a study is taking something a different direction. That includes the Point of the Mountain transit service, and the Little Cottonwood Canyon, as well as seasonal service. As I mentioned, we're doing outreach right now. We're looking for feedback. We've done a number of open houses, a virtual open house, as well as several in-person open houses. We're doing this and other events with community groups to collect feedback. And then part of what we're here today is to discuss what we've got on the maps and make sure everyone's aware that we have an online survey that we'd love to get your input on what we have prioritized in our vision. I will also state that this vision that you'll be looking at on the maps, once again, is fiscally unconstrained, which means that not everything that shows up on the map will end up being planned by 2050. So we're looking to get input on what we think the priorities are and help us build out from there. And then
that was it. The last part was just if there's questions on that planning process, we can take those now, but a lot of the questions we'll have in our open discussion. So if there's questions on like kind of what this process is, you can ask them now if there are any. Michaela?
I have a question. When you said you have a new service type and you said something about like bi-directional extended service, could you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, that is, let's see, which best slide to look at that. So, oops, I need to click the right button. Not on my computer, but on this computer. So for instance, out to Tooele, there's planned an all-day service that will operate similar types of hours and frequency as a rail system might, and with spaced out stops, and with the hope that we can look at ways to make it faster than regular bus, whether that's shoulder lanes or other types of methods to speed it up. That's being planned for Salt Lake City to Tooele, Ogden to Brigham City, and then Provo to Payson, and as a before Frontrunner comes in, but between Provo and Payson. The idea of that is also to not only provide additional transit support for longer regional commutes, but also to potentially build a case in some places for, is this a place that we could see future investment of larger infrastructure like rail? So.
I know that I got or like the newsletter that said, hey, there's the, I wrote this down. The open houses. How else was that advertised? And then I'm also wondering how well are those like attended, and how much information are we getting on those?
So the open houses were promoted through a variety of means, both online, and I think we had some print advertising as well. We had those throughout the end of last month and this month in a number of different places. Ogden, Brigham City, Magna, I'm not going to remember all of them, Provo, Lehigh, a number of different places, but we did have a mix of attendance. It is one axiom of planning meetings is people tend to come to a planning meeting if they're upset about something. And when you're planning for something 30 years out, we did get some pretty good attendance at a few of them, 20 to 30 people. But we also, it's just one of many different ways that we're looking to communicate both other meetings like this and online communication. And we are also passing out our community engagement team. Unfortunately, our community engagement director, or actually, fortunately, she's able to take vacation right now, but she's not here tonight. But they have been, their team has a number of events that they attend, community events, and they have information about the long range plan that they're handing out there as a method to, go to where people are and say, here's where you can take the survey and provide more input. So.
Then follow up. Can we get that survey link again so that we can share it out again?
Yeah, we can definitely send that.
Cool.
survey
Just
link.
so we can share it out
Yeah,
again. I've
We
shared
will
it
do
out a
that.
few
We
times.
do have an easy to remember, hopefully, but we'll send the link, but rideuta.com/LRTP, and whatever our website people do, they do well enough that you can also Google UTA long range plan, and I found it comes up right away. But we will definitely have the direct link put out as well.
I was just going to really quickly go online. Andrew Riggle, you had your hand up, and then we'll go Mike. I saw that you had, and then Andrew, other Andrew Gruber. But Andrew Riggle, go ahead with your question or comment.
You answered the question. It was how to get to it for those of us who are QR code challenged.
Perfect. Yeah, and we always send out links or things like that, whatever we discussed in the meeting, we'll send that in a follow-up email. So you'll have that as well. Mike?
My one question for UTA is regarding the Rio Grande plan, which is still very much in its infancy, or maybe even before its infancy at this point. But is it possible for UTA to at least leave a door open to the possibility of the Rio Grande plan as the 2050 plan goes forward?
So the Rio Grande plan, for folks who may not be aware, is was proposed by a couple of folks, and it's about sort of realigning the rail system in downtown Salt Lake City so that it runs in a train trench rather than where it is right now. So it moves back over towards where the Rio Grande train depot is. And I mean, as far as UTA goes, we would certainly support that happening. Salt Lake City applied and received money for a grant to look at a number of different ways to improve connectivity across the city. One of those items includes a preliminary feasibility study for what it might cost and what sort of impacts it would have. It does involve, in fact, most of the players involved are not UTA to make the decision making. The Rio Grande facility is owned by the state of Utah now. It would involve a lot of UDOT coordination right away, Salt Lake City, and there probably likely be a number of property impacts. So all of that would need to be considered. So we are happy to be a partner in that decision making. But other folks, including also Union Pacific, so a number of other people are involved. But I think, you know, we'll be a partner in the study as that goes forward. All things being equal, it would be a cool thing to happen. But we will see what happens based on you know, the feasibility. One thing that has been, a couple of things that have been discussed that may be potential challenges is the water table and the ability to dig underground, and then the sort of pumping mechanism that would be necessary would be challenging. And then the timing and the amount of impact it might have on transportation in the meantime. It's not to say it couldn't be done, but we'll see what happens.
Andrew
Thanks.
Gruber.
I want to go back to Sarah's comment before about like engagement and actually, Lauren, would it be possible for you to go back to the beginning where you had the committee goals and objectives? Can we put that back on the screen for a sec?
Yeah.
If not, that's
Rosie-
okay. But
Or no, I can.
here's why. So, Sarah, you asked about like, can we get the link and the, you know, and the survey information? And like the answer is, of course, yes. And it just reminds me about one of the purposes, objectives of this whole group here. Let's see. So outreach and engagement, and this is a two-way street here, right? So together we're community members and the transportation agencies at the table, literally and figuratively tonight, at the table working together. And so C, transportation partners, so that's WFRC, MAG, UDOT, UTA. That's what that means, right? Transportation partners, the agencies, will regularly share plans, studies, and programs along with supportive materials and resources with the advisory committee. That's you, the members of the committee, to share with the community. And so I'm sort of going back to where we started in like last year, that the idea would be that we would share with you these plans, the links, the surveys, whatever the case may be. And part of your role as an advisory committee member is to push that stuff out, like help make sure that you know, if you're representing an organization, the members of your organization, if you are from a particular community, that folks in your community are seeing this info and have that opportunity to know, hey, there's a survey to fill out, like pushing that stuff out. Okay. So that's like us going to you and saying, help us get the word out to all the communities. Okay. And I just think I bring that up because Alex, you're talking about, oh, we're getting public input, and Sarah's asking, can we get the survey? And it's like, you betcha. And like, here's part of the whole point of us being here together. And then the other side of that is what comes back. D, the advisory committee will advise transportation partners, you advise us, not to be like you and us, but you get what I'm saying, okay? On new avenues for outreach and public engagement for the Wasatch Choice Vision and related transportation and land use efforts, and will increase awareness and spread the word with members of their communities. So what that means there again is, if you have ideas like, hey, UTA team, I think that if you did X, Y, and Z, it would be really helpful to getting the word out. That again is part of the role of the advisory committee, and help us get the word out there to make sure that members of the community have that access. Now, last thing I'll say is, so there's that two-way street there. You, the members of the advisory committee, as individuals, you're not just functioning as a conduit to the community members. We want your personal input too on behalf of the committee. You expressed a desire to participate in this. You bring something to the table, and so we want you to help us make the connection to the community, and then also we want to hear your personal views about these topics we're working on. And I think, I'm pretty sure I'm speaking on behalf of all the transportation partners and saying that, but like everybody's nodding, so okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move to my favorite part on today's agenda. So what we're going to do next is we're going to lay out some maps. And quickly, for the online folks, we have Matt, who's in another conference room, who will be leading an online breakout group. So don't worry, you will not be left out of this. But in person, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be spreading out some maps, and we'll be looking at the draft UTA Moves 2050 plan and kind of what transit projects and things like that they have planned. And you can mark up these maps. We'll have Post-it notes, pens, things like that. And the transportation partners will also be floating around. There's extra UTA folks here, really excited to help answer any questions that you might have related to any of these projects. Alex, anything else you want to add?
Yes, or any other questions you may have about UTA in general. And we have some comment cards. We, of course, also strongly encourage everyone to take the online version. So feel free to leave comments here. Tell us your comments. Do it online. All of that goes back and it's compiled as part of the input that we heard through this plan, which once again is not the final plan ever. It's just this version, which will be iterated up into the future. And we have a number of folks from UTA here, and then Matt online. So we'll be walking around and happy to interact and answer questions. Or if it comes to a question that we can't answer, we could always take it back and get you an answer. But hopefully we can answer them. Thanks.
Great. So there's 3 maps and we'll place them at each table. They're of different areas. So if you want to move around at any point, feel free to do so, or if you want to focus on kind of where your interest is, but we will lay those out now. Okay, thanks.
So one area map per table? Sure. And they are Utah County, Davison, Weber, and Salt Lake County, I'll bet. And Tooele. Cool.
Testing, testing. Can I be heard in the meeting room?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm hoping that I can be heard online, but not in the meeting room, so that they can do the engagement in there while we talk here. So for those of you here online,
turn it for these holes if I see.
for those of you here online, I recommend having a look at the story map, because that would probably be the best way to look at what is in the plan. And then I am here if you have any questions or comments. But also, the great thing about the story map, or not the story map, but the comment map, is that you can click on a specific route and leave a comment to that. So let's see.
So the story map is more for information, but then any feedback we comment on the survey map.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, the survey includes a map, and that's, yeah. The right, exactly what you said. The story map is more for learning about the plan and seeing what's in there. And you know, if you'd like to, you can scroll all the way down until you see the map of all the projects that are in the plan. Or you can take your time to scroll through the story map.
I have a question more about the process itself. So for once UTA finalizes this UTA Moves 2050, what are the next steps in terms of action plans and like actually bringing these to life? Like, is there a set time frame that these will be implemented? Because it's really cool to see all of this vision and planning, but I'm more curious about the actual implementation of these.
Yeah, you're right that there isn't so much specificity as to when things will be implemented. Like Alex said, it is unconstrained, which means there may or may not, and in fact, in most cases, there is not funding in place for these. And the idea is this is what could happen in the next 30 years, or between now and 2050. So what happens, where it gets a little more specific, is the 5-year service plan is one place, and the service planners at UTA update that I think more frequently than 5 years. Yeah, this is meant to be a long range plan. So, and the very first of them. So this will be updated on the cycle, but yeah, that is a good point that these are not specific to a timeline.
Yeah, could this definitely, I think the survey would help with the priority. Then, you know, limited budgets is really hard to work with. So it sounds like it's more of a, here is our vision, and then it sounds like the actual implementation plan is more assessed like from year to year, depending on the budget that UTA receives and how to allocate that.
Yeah, and
okay.
And project by project will get funding allocated by grants and other means.
That's great. Sorry, I like don't know much about how the actual financing behind it works, so that helps. That clarifies a lot for me.
Yeah, this is very broad but very high level snapshot of the next 30 years.
And this is Andrew Riggle with the Disability Law Center. I'll need some time to look through things before I have specific comments. But two things struck me in the in the very quick overview of the plan, paratransit was on one of the slides, but wasn't actually mentioned. One of the things that we know is that as I'm sure you know, right now, paratransit is $4 one way. And that can be prohibitive for folks who depend on paratransit to get around, but are also not always, but often low income folks as well. So $8 for a trip, regardless of length, can be prohibitive. And then and this is understandable as well, but paratransit by design is from relatively close to a bus stop to another fixed route stop, or to a light rail or front runner station. Rarely is it into end, which can be a challenge for some folks. Then the other thing I noticed, and this is what welcome addition for a lot of folks, and I know a lot of folks will appreciate the expansion, but that is the partnership with ride sharing companies for last mile kinds of things. But ride sharing companies do not have accessibility requirements, so they are often inaccessible to folks who use wheelchairs or have other mobility needs. So it's a really great innovation, but it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. And something that I can speak to is this study that we are working with the University of Utah on. They're actually, University of Utah researchers are leading the Paratransit Forward study, which kicked off recently. And essentially right now we provide the level of paratransit service that is required, which is a certain distance from existing fixed route transit service. And then we're required to, I think you're required to schedule the ride a day in advance.
I didn't even want to get into that.
Yeah, but the purpose of this study is to look at what we can be doing beyond the minimum that we do, and what's it going to cost, and how can it be done. And so looking at a bunch of different things, like potentially making it more on demand than 24 hours in advance, as well as part of it is looking at electric vehicles as well.
Well, this is the first that I've heard about the study with the youth. So that's great news. And also, just so that I don't sound entirely like a negative Nelly all the time, I will let you know that I've talked with a few folks who've had good experiences using VIA out here in the boondocks. So.
Oh, good. Well, remind me where exactly you are?
in my head I'm downtown, but physically I'm in Sandy at the moment.
Okay.
Physically and emotionally.
Yeah, let's not yes, physically and emotionally, because if we talk talked about where I was actually physically and emotionally, that would not be a pleasant conversation. So
Sandra, you asked if that was the website for the U of U research. We don't have, we are actually working on putting up a webpage in the next week or so for Paratransit Forward. So that will be on Ride UTA's ongoing projects page.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with this traffic lab, but I see pictures of Kathy Liu, who is the lead researcher for the Paratransit Forward research. She is the main person on this. Research.
Thanks for the info.
Hey Sandra, just out of curiosity, do you know, because we've talked to in the past we've talked to some folks involved in the autonomous vehicle research up there. Is that part of what the traffic lab is up to? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It could be. I just did a
Okay.
Google of paratransit and U of U, and this was the first thing that came up.
As we all do these days until
Yes.
until the DOJ says no more.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Great, thanks.
And I think we have a URL that hasn't been created yet, but I think it's going to be, it will likely be rideuta.com/paratransit-forward. I'll write that here.
I'm holding you to that. I'm holding you to that. Whether if it's not that, I'm coming back. and then, so no, that sounds great. Thank you.
And back to the TNCs like Uber and Lyft. Yeah, we're looking also into partnering with Yellow Cab, who do have some accessible vans.
They do. Okay. Last time I knew, and admittedly it was years ago. Ute had two, and that was it. So if in fact it has expanded, that's great news.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I've heard it secondhand.
Okay.
But that we're looking into for our Reconnect program, which is where we connect you with a free ride if we are unable to, if something goes wrong and we're unable to get you where you need to go. Because currently, you're right, a voucher for Uber or Lyft is not guaranteed to get you home if you have a mobility device. So yeah, that is a consideration. Ethan Ray, who's in our planning department, just became the project manager for that, the Reconnect, and so he's looking into that.
Oh, great. Learning. I don't know if I'm being very helpful to you guys, but I am learning all kinds of things that I can share with folks. So this is great.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're hearing about Paratransit Forward like right before we, I guess, quote unquote, go public with it, because we're putting up a website, we're doing, our consultants doing a logo. So but in that research project is now through next June, so we're at the very beginning of it.
Oh, great.
Does anybody have other questions that are either specific or general?
I get, and I guess one might be, especially as we try to help push the surveys out to folks. I know that the question, most of the questions will be specific in terms of generating the kind of input and feedback that you need in order to flesh out the plan. But for the if there are pre-response kinds of things, what sort of information or identification activities would be most helpful to you all, so that we can do what we can do to generate the most useful kinds of responses.
Good question, and I think my answer would be like, where are our blind spots? Like, are we missing something that's a huge need? Because I think the thing that we would want to know most is what we don't know. So if you have expertise on a certain area and like how the needs of people and in different places or issues using transit, then I think that's very useful and very helpful for this.
I have a couple other questions if I could ask them real quick.
Sure.
One, I don't know if this is within like the scope of UTA Moves 2050, but does UTA have any kind of coordination with other public transit systems? Like I'm thinking about the system up in Park City and then the newish High Valley Transit that like connects Heber to Park City. Like, are there any efforts to kind of expand services or like improve greater connections between these regions that are a little bit farther away and like outside of UTA routes?
Yeah, and if you're familiar with the Park City, Salt Lake City Connect bus that UTA up until recently operated, that is now operated by High Valley Transit.
Okay.
So it is no longer a UTA route. However, we are still a partner with them.
Okay.
And in fact, because UTA has a greater ability to purchase vehicles and go for grants, I think that is one way in which we are helping High Valley to get the service between I don't know if it's Park City or Kimball Junction and Salt Lake City improved with, I think the idea is electric vehicles and probably improved service, but yeah, those are our closest neighbors as far as transit agencies. I can't speak too much though to how much we're working with other agencies, but I know that is a partnership with them. Jay has a question.
Yeah, Sandra, I just wanted to say that the UDOT is in the process of doing a statewide intercity bus study. So we're updating our study that last was done in 2010. So that should give us some insights as to what the needs are to fill the gaps in between the cities. So that should that would provide additional information along the lines of what you're asking.
Well, that's good to know because I have like family out in Heber, and like my younger sister in high school is trying to get a job in Park City, and she was talking about the High Valley Transit and the bus frequencies, and that kind of sparked my curiosity about what existed like through Parleys Canyon and outside of this little region. But that's really cool to know. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think all of the agencies, like I've worked quite a bit with the Logan agencies, Cache Valley Transit District, as well as the SunTran down in St. George, and they all respond in their own processes to those kind of requests from their communities. Like we need more access to somewhere in their region or to Salt Lake in particular. So it's something that's always addressed. The challenge is usually lack of funds to do those connections. And sometimes it's the lack of demand, but that's hopefully what we'll find out.
Cool. Thank you. And then my other question, and this is just me being really curious, like if Salt Lake City were to get the Olympics winter bid, how do you think that would impact this UTA Moves 2050?
It certainly would impact it. Right, before Salt Lake City won the Olympic bid for 2002, light rail was voted down by residents of Utah or the counties, or Salt Lake County. But then when Salt Lake City got the Olympics, federal government stepped in to pay for what, 80%, something like that, of the cost. And so I know I've been in a lot of project meetings where someone might say, oh, this would be a lot easier if we get the Olympics, then we know we'll get the funding. But yeah, I mean, I know that's something that people probably in a lot of different fields here in Utah would be hopeful for, but especially public transit.
Yeah, because I know tracks was expanded, but I didn't know that 80% of the money came from federal government.
Something like that. But yeah, that's how I think a lot of people attribute the original tracks line between Salt Lake City and Sandy to Salt Lake City winning the bid for the 2002 Olympics.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here's a comment. Areta, what is it that you would like to share with the community health workforce? Is it the long range transit plan?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, what he was talking about our role in this is to share with community and push all this stuff out and get feedback and bring it back. And our community health workers work like inside on the ground with community. And so I feel like that's one way that we could really share this out into especially our low income and most vulnerable communities, is to do a presentation at our monthly meetings, and then they can share this out in their meetings or with their the populations that they serve. I just had two things that I had maybe just comments about, and it might be way off, but one is the concern I have is that a lot of this is based on the need and the demand, like they said, or the numbers. Like I look at the story map and it shows like if there's this many people who live around here or jobs around here, then more likely they'll get this service. But the barriers for a lot of our community members who are way out there or in places where there's not a huge amount of people, but they need to get to work too. Like they have the hardest time where, they don't have a car, or they don't have a bus, or it's not safe or something like that. And then the other comment is, no, I lost my train of thought. Shoot, I forgot. Let me think for a little while and I'll come back.
Yeah, I don't know if this answers your first comment, but that is a major trade-off that we have to when we're planning transit service, and we try to do both, which is providing service to as many people as possible and as many places as possible. So we're trying to balance having coverage and trying to get everywhere that people who rely on transit need to go, as well as putting transit where it will be ridden the most. And also, you know, everybody in our service area is paying taxes toward transit and should get a share of service.
I just remembered my other comment.
Okay.
So say we go out and we push all this out, and I'm thinking why this came to mind is this whole I-15 expansion thing, right? If we push it out and then people don't want it, what happens? I mean, you know, that's always like the pushback I get from community, like, why should we even come and comment when we know if the money is there and there's a majority of people who say that this needs to happen, that it's going to happen regardless if we want it or not, and it's in my neighborhood. What happens? Or is that what happens? It just gets built.
True. Now, I-15 wouldn't be a part of this plan or any of UTA's work. And I don't know if you're just talking about major projects in general or about highways.
Yeah, I mean, even for this, say, like they're gonna run the tracks through an area that they don't wanna, the residents don't want it to run.
And your question was, is there anything that they can do, or is it just gonna happen?
Yeah, is there like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just bringing community feedback that I get a lot when I'm in these groups, and then I go and say, hey, this is what the ideas that are going on. It's gonna help us do this, this, and this, get certain people to jobs. And then there's always some kind of resistance or pushback in certain places because community doesn't want the expansion or the extension or, you know, new things to run through wherever it is. And so I don't know. I go back to them with the same answer, but I just figured I'd bring that to you.
Yeah. It sounds like the concern is how does a community know that its input or feedback, desires or experiences is being accounted for in the process, and will there be a way that, or is there a way that UTA and others involved in this can report back to communities and say, this is what we've heard, this is what we heard from you, and this is what we've done in response to what we've heard, or this is why we chose to or can't do whatever it is that the community is recommending.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I don't know if I have a good answer. And I think that would be on a project by project basis. But I hope that, I mean, that should be a part of major projects, is responding to the feedback. Otherwise, if you're not considering and using the feedback, then what are you collecting feedback for? So I know that's something that we our community engagement manager, Megan Waters, tries to be thoughtful about, because, you know, oftentimes somebody will say, hey, we need engagement on this, and then she'll or that, you know, that group will question, well, what is the purpose? How is this going to be used? So that is important. I don't think I have a great answer for those questions.
Yeah, I run into that a lot too when I do community engagement and public outreach. Like this past summer, one of my grad courses was around the I-15 expansion, and so a lot of people in the west side were very against it. And when we did outreach, they were like, what's the point of me commenting if they're gonna proceed with it anyway? And it is tough and like very valid when you think about historical and
we are
ongoing.
going. Oh my gosh.
I
think we're about to
I don't know if I
Okay,
should finish
we're
my
going to
sentence.
finish up. I just
No
had a
warning.
Oh,
Okay, that
sorry.
scared me. I was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere.
I am
was
so sorry for that.
Oh yeah, like very valid and rightfully so, given like historical and ongoing movements where, you know, wealthier people tend to have their opinions prioritized over people of color and lower income individuals. And so I think that's just part of the struggle, unfortunately. And so when I get asked that, I just kind of reiterate, like, if they're going to do it anyway, then we may as well try and push back to show that there is community watching and community taking note. And like, if you proceed to go on with it, then like, let the record show the community members did not want this. So it's definitely a tough approach to take. And so if anyone else has any advice for how to navigate that in like community outreach, I would definitely love to hear what you guys do.
Yeah, well, I think two parts was for that, but also to just share to UTA that to be prepared. Like one thing that community doesn't like is to get no response at all, or to just be told, well, you know, we did this, but there's nowhere we can find what the answers were to any of the questions or the concerns that they gave. So yeah.
Thank you both. Thank you, everybody. I think we are wrapping. Lauren, is there a next section to this?
I was just gonna wrap up and say some final words. You guys all done? Okay. I just really wanted to quickly thank everyone for joining. Next time, and we'll send out an email with all of these details, but at the next meeting in October, we're gonna have a group photo. So if at all possible, please come in person, but we'll try and accommodate those online like we did last year. And then I was trying to find the email, but for UDOT's, it used to be UDOT's transportation or UDOT's conference, but now it's the Utah Transportation Conference. Andrea Olson has provided free registration for our committee members. So we'll send you all of the details on that upcoming conference. It will be in October. I think it's the 24th through the 26th. And so you'll have access to that and can look at the agenda and all that. We'll make sure you have all that information, but I just wanted to share that really quickly. And that's a wrap. So thank you all for coming. Let me know if you need validations, things like that. And yeah, we'll be in touch soon. So thanks.